It's time to get in the game.
Get in the game. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Work. There you go. Hard work. Work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work. Work. Hard work. That's what you say. Hard work. 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 Earn my pay. Hard work. Work. Hard work. Do it every day. Hard work. Work. Get up out of 2:45. Hard work. Work. You go and earn my pay. Hard work. Work.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get in the Game podcast, the podcast where we explore ways to get off the sidelines, stop making excuses, and get in the game. You may have heard that song before. It's called Hard Work, and it's actually a cadence that is sung by the Army Airborne Rangers. You may have heard it on commercials and stuff. That's actually where I have heard it the most. Just in different commercials, they kind of use that cadence for different things. But if you haven't guessed, today we're talking about work, hard work. And before we get into that, I do want to say that I'm glad to be back. I took about a 4-week pause from the podcast just to kind of take some time off to relax. Went on a trip, went on vacation with my wife for our anniversary and our birthdays. And just got a chance to really think about where I want this podcast to be going, and also a chance to just rest and kind of get back to some other things that may have not been getting my attention so much. But it's actually that time on vacation that I really started thinking about this subject, which is hard work. And I want to get into that, but I want to also say, like, if you have been waiting for other episodes to drop in the last month or so, I apologize for that, because I didn't really give a heads up. I just kind of took the time off. I felt it was what I needed, but I do apologize, because I should have let people know that that I wouldn't be coming out with any episodes in that time frame. So again, I apologize, but I'm back, and I am happy to be talking about this subject today. I think it's really important. I mentioned I went on a trip, on a vacation with my wife. Right at the very beginning of this podcast, probably about 3 or 4 weeks into it, my wife and I went to Cancun, and we had some vacation. Well, guess what? We went to the exact same spot for another 10 nights, and it's our favorite place to go. It's a place where we can just go and relax, and we don't have to worry about any schedules. It's an all-inclusive resort, so we don't have to worry about getting onto shuttles or anything like that and doing excursions. You can do those things, but especially my wife's schedule is so impacted by schedules, by time frames and stuff like that, that for her, the best thing is to be at a place where we don't have to worry about what time it is. All we have to worry about is waking up and what time we decide we want to go and get dinner that night. So everything else is just, it revolves around what you want to do. And for the most part, we just kind of lounge around in the pool or take naps. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of relaxation. But at that time there, I got some good conversations with some of the people who actually work there, some of the employees of the resort. And interestingly enough, there were a lot of people who actually recognized us from just 6 months ago. This is a place that's over 2,500 miles away. And we were there, like I said, I mentioned 6 months ago, and you really interact with a bunch of people there, but you probably only interact with a few multiple times, whether it be the people at the poolside who are trying to get you anything that you need to eat or drink, or maybe it's certain restaurants and the same people are working there, week after or day after day, and you repeat service to those same or patronage to those same restaurants. But they saw us and they recognized us, and it's very impressive to me, because I started thinking about how many people they must see in that time frame, just weekly, the turnover of guests who are staying at these places and at these resorts, and they were able to recognize us and say, "Hey, you were just here, weren't you?" Or, "I remember your hair," and they're talking to my wife's hair, or They remember, what we liked to eat, or certain, things we'd order while during our stay. And it just kind of hit us saying, hey, you know what? These people take their time. They take pride in what they're doing, and they make it a product that makes you want to come back. And that's exactly why we keep coming back, because we keep feeling welcome. We keep feeling like we're not just a customer there, which, let's face it, we are. I mean, the whole reason that they're in business is because they're trying to make money off people coming and using their resort for vacation. But it makes us feel more important than that, and not more important like we're high and rich and all that stuff, but important as like we're real people, and they remember us. But then I got some chances to speak with a couple different employees on a one-on-one basis, and it was kind of just happenstance that it happened. Every day at 3:00, they have a chance to play like a Texas Hold'em little poker game. And something about me, if you guys didn't know, but I do like to play poker here and there with some buddies. So the first day I went and I played, and at the end of that day, the dealer had an interaction with a guest who was there, who's actually a friend of someone who was playing, but he was just kind of hanging out, and he kind of had some like questions for me, and he kind of wondered what I do for a living, and my work with FCA came up and stuff, and so he was really like happy about that, and he challenged me in his words to do some things that kind of made her feel uneasy, and it really did have to do with like just full truth is he basically said that he asked me my age and asked me my wife's age and how old we are, and he said I challenge you in the next 5 years to have a kid or have kids. And at this point in our lives, we don't really feel like we're called to be parents, that we have other stuff. We have ways that we can bless families and bless children in our own lives. And that's our business and no one else's. And so when he said that, the dealer, who was a woman, she kind of like mentioned like, oh, almost like, let's not talk about that. That's like no one else's business. And then when he left, it was all not meaningless, but it was all, nothing was being pushed. Nothing was being too crazy and like being in your face. But when he left, when the game was over, I kind of stuck around, and I mentioned to her, I said, thank you for saying something, like obviously it resonated with you. And she just said, I just don't like when people say stuff like that, because it's really none of their business. And it's, you never know what someone is going through. If they can't have kids or they've tried or anything like that. And that's not our story by any means, but I get what she's saying, because it's true. You never know what's going on. But she took the time and then she started to tear up, and I didn't quite ask her if she had experience in that. Like, again, it's not my business, but I just let her know that because of the way that she treats the guests and the pride she takes in her craft and her ability to she's on the entertainment crew, so to entertain the guests and keep them busy and happy, that's why we come back. That's why we see them. I said, we see you guys, we love you guys, and that's why we keep coming back. And she kind of teared up and was just saying, thank you so much. I go, I know that there's a lot of people who come here and have a lot of money, and they like to be jerks about stuff, and they like to just boss people around and just throw it around their money. But that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to be perceived. I want you to know that I see you and that you're important, and I appreciate you having the willingness to stand up and say something. And again, she was tearing up at this point, and then she said, thank you. And then before I walked away, it was just me and her and just some people walking around this. And she's like, Like, would you mind if I give you a hug? I'm like, absolutely. Like, or absolutely no, I don't mind. And she kind of gave me a little side hug, and she was cheering up, but we had a good real moment knowing that two humans from completely different backgrounds and situations can have an impact on each other's lives in a way that's not inappropriate in any way. And first thing I did when I got back to the hotel room, because Britt doesn't like to play poker, so she either was still out at the pool or she had gone up to the room. And when I was done, that's the first thing I told her, is like, what happened? And that was like kind of just a real moment and was special, and it was something I took away from it. And then another time I went to go play poker, and there was no game at that time. There was an opportunity, but it's all about if people want to show up. So not enough people showed up, and I got a chance to talk to this gentleman just about life of working in this sort of environment. And he told me his schedule and how it can vary, how some days he'll get there at 10 o'clock in the morning and he'll be off at 4. Then there's other days he's there at 6:30 in the morning and he's not off till 12:30 in the morning the following day. So he's basically, it's a 18-hour day. And at that point, at the end of the night, he still has to ride his bicycle home, which is like 5 miles south of there, through the Caribbean jungle, which is, it's not huge. It's not like a huge rainforest, so don't like think about it that way. But it is, it basically, the jungle kind of butts up right against the resort fence in a way. And there's like a street, so there's the resort fence, and then there's a street that kind of goes parallel to the freeway that's there. And the freeway is like probably a mile away, but it does run parallel, so it goes south in the same way. So it's kind of like the back roads. But the jungle does butt up right against that road, and that's the road he would have to take to his hometown. And he says there's times where you hear all sorts of rustling in off the side of the road. He goes, it could be, he said there's like, truthfully, there are jaguars, there are pumas. So like for us, it'd be like, mountain lions and stuff. And then on the human side, it could be literally people who are homeless or drug addicts and stuff, doing stuff right there. And he told me of a story. He, as he was riding home just a few weeks prior to this, it was about 12:30 in the morning, 1 o'clock, and he was riding home, and all of a sudden he heard this huge rustling on the side of the road, and he goes, at this point, I'm not going to slow down and look, so I just bolted. I just looked forward, and I pedaled as hard as I could until I felt like I was safe. And I started thinking, like, do you like working here? Like, how is this job compared to other things? He goes, I absolutely love it here. He goes, I've been in this industry for 7 years, but I've been at this resort for 4, and I hope I never leave. And it's interesting to me because here in America, there's so much dispute about how much we make, and can we afford certain things, and what are we willing to do? But I heard rumors that other people, when you hear other people talking in the pool and they kind of ask stuff, I'm not one of those people who likes to ask what people make, so I didn't. But I heard other people talking about, these people, like the servers only make $2 a day, the equivalent of $2 a day, which is about, it's about 40 pesos or 38 pesos. I think it's 19-1 is the ratio. So they only make $2 a day on server, and then they make tips. And it seems like, just watching people, there's a lot of people who don't tip that well. Like it's an all-inclusive resort, so you've paid for everything already. But then when you go out to dinner, you're supposed to tip and supposed to do, little things and for the service that you're giving. And these people are loving the job that they have because it gives them an opportunity to live. He was so excited that day that he was going to be off at 4 o'clock because he has a girlfriend that actually works at the same resort. And she's in the room, not room service, but the cleaning crew of the rooms. And they were going to meet back in their hometown, about 5 miles away, and they were going to have a beach day. It's a little. He said it was a kind of a fishing town, but they have little beaches and stuff around there. So they were going to go have a picnic on the beach and just kind of enjoy the ocean or the sea together and have that time, with each other. And he told me so much about how hard he has to work and the different roles he has. And when you're on the entertainment crew, you could be doing guided bicycle tours, or you could be doing Texas Hold'em, or you could be at the poolside during lunchtime activities and stuff like that. You're just kind of always used for whatever they need you for, and it's hard work. You're looking at these workers, and the color of their main color is like a burnt orange type color. So all their polos and stuff are burnt orange, and they wear khakis. But they're always like drenched in sweat because it's humid out there, and yeah, they're probably a little more used to the weather, so that they're not sweating as much as like I would, because out here in California we don't have that kind of humidity, at least in the Central Valley. But they're out there and they're sweating, and they're just working as hard as they can, and they're so grateful that the fact that they have a job, that they're able to just take care of their needs. And he mentioned to me that the reason he rides his bicycle now is because he had a motorcycle, but when the COVID restrictions hit and they had to close for a certain amount of time, and they did remodels in order to survive, not survive, but to provide for his family, he sold his motorcycle because he had responsibilities. But they knew when he had the time and the chance to come back, he was going to work hard. He says, so I'm working to save up to get another motorcycle. And it's mainly just because it's just the transportation there and back. Because at the end of a long night or a long day of work, possibly 12 hours, 18 hours of work, the last thing any of us would want to do is a 15, 20 minute bicycle ride back home in pitch black darkness with a little light bulb on the front of your bicycle. But these are the things that they're grateful to be able to do that. And I feel here in America we get so spoiled with stuff, and we just and that's not everyone, because there are a lot of people who are grateful for the work that they have. But I'm when I'm speaking right now, I'm literally I'm convicting myself, because this is something that I noticed, and it's humbling to be put in a situation that you're just so. I'm grateful for them, and then you see how grateful they are for everything. And so I know that I don't work as hard as I should. I know that I act spoiled sometimes. I try not to, but I know that there are times where I act like a brat, or I don't want to work as hard, or I feel like I shouldn't have to work so hard. And I hear so many stories of people who feel like they should be paid more just because they've been at a certain position for a long time, and their work ethic has gotten worse, and not because they haven't been paid more, but because they're just getting lazier. Every single day, I hear stories of people who, I say that they've been at work for 3 months and they feel like they should get paid more, and haven't really gotten out of any kind of early stages of their employment to really deserve or earn it yet, or they're not eligible for it yet, but they're start complaining, well, if they're not going to pay me more, I'm just going to jump ship. Instead of saying, I'm going to put my head down and I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to do what I'm told, and I'm going to make an impression on the people I'm serving, or the products I'm putting out, or the art I'm doing. And then if you're working for someone, that's going to leave an impression on the people who are my supervisors. But I hear too many stories of people just wanting to jump ship because, I got a job, and in 2 weeks I didn't like the schedule that they gave me, so I'm going to peace out. Or I don't like the fact that I might have to work a little bit of overtime and get paid for it, but because it puts me in a spot where I might have to miss like a football game on a Sunday afternoon, then I just don't like that. So I'm going to try to find a place that does this, and instead of just saying, hey, you know what, I have DVR at home, or I have any sort of thing where I just don't check my phone for the next 8 hours, and that way I don't know who won the game, and I go home and watch it. We have, in some good ways, we're so spoiled with certain things that we're able to rearrange the order of way we used to do things. And what I mean by that is we used to have to watch the games live. I'm old enough to remember when there was no TiVo, there was no DVR, there was no being able to record the games unless you had a VHS, recorder, that you actually had to watch the games live. And you only got 2 games a Sunday. And it was usually one was on CBS and one was on Fox. And that's all you got. But now they're so televised, there's different networks, and you can get them recorded, and you have unlimited recordings and catch every single game, and we complain about not being able to watch a game live. When life has given us, and technology has given us almost every opportunity to be able to make work more of a priority and actually put more of a priority on our play as well. We can block it out in our leisure time and set aside time and get so much more done at once, because you don't have to be like, oh, I have to watch the game here and then I have to do this here because I want to watch this or whatnot. It's so much more convenient. So when I'm talking to you about needing to work harder, I know that I need to work harder. I know it convicted me to work harder. I feel like a guy was just telling me, like, look how grateful this person is for just the ability to work and be able to put food on the table for either himself or he and his girlfriend or the rest of his family. Because they've told us that these jobs in these resorts are the coveted jobs of people. It's better than working, somewhere outside of that. If you're looking at more of an entry level or sort of job, pay is not great there. The economy in Mexico is not very good. And so they're grateful to be able to survive and have a little leisure time here and there. And you might be wondering, like, what does this have to do with getting in the game? Well, I mean, it has everything to do with getting in the game. Because we got to do it. Whatever we're going to do, we got to work hard at it. And so I got some scripture references, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. Kind of going to run through them a little fast because I don't want this first episode back to be too long and crazy and kind of get you guys to not listen. But work has always been part of our job, part of the plan for us. In Genesis 2:15, after he had created Adam, he had created the heavens and the earth. He had Adam there, and it says, then the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and to keep it. That's Genesis 2:15. And this is before even Eve was in the picture. This is before sin. So the job of him was to cultivate and keep the Garden of Eden. The first person was to be a farmer. That was what he was supposed to be doing. God has never told us that we don't have to work. It was always part of the plan for us to be doing something, have some sort of work to be doing. In 1 Timothy, it's pretty evident of how important working is. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, it says, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. That is super strong, because if I'm not providing, what it's saying is, if I'm not providing in any way for my wife, for my family, or my household, and I have this faith, knowing what Jesus did for me on the cross, if I have this faith and I don't do this stuff, then I am worse than an unbeliever. Because I've taken the faith and I've said, you know what? I don't need that. All I need is to do this. No, I have a job to do. And whether that job is a ministry, or whether that job is by the sweat of my brow or the calluses on my hands or anything in between, that's what I have to do, because that's where God has put me, and that's the role I'm supposed to take. So I don't want to be worse than an unbeliever in that aspect. I want to be diligently obeying what God has put before me. And if the work is before me is ministry, or it's this podcast, or if it's something else, then that's what I need to do full force and wholeheartedly. And there's a reason we do it, because for all different ways and reasons, there is profit in it. In Proverbs 14:23, it says, "In all labor there is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty." So if you just sit there and talk about all the things you want to do and all these ideas you have, but you never put the boots to the ground and your back's to work and all that stuff, getting it done, then all it's going to lead to is poverty. It says, "In all labor there is profit." That means there's something to be gained in every bit of work. It doesn't say in only farming, or in only, if you're a professional athlete, or if you're a business owner. It says in all labor there is profit. And that could be just work around home. If you're working at your home, there is profit in that. Something's good is going to come from it. And we need to be grateful for that. There's also, we always come back to it, but actually I'm gonna hold off on that last one. But in 2 Thessalonians, it's kind of strong like that one in 1 Timothy. Basically, it's saying, then if you don't if you don't work, then you don't deserve to eat. And it was when Paul was working in Thessalonica, and he's writing to them, and this is what he said in 2 Thessalonians 3:10, "For even when we were with you, we used to give you this order: if anyone is not willing to work, then he is not to eat either." So basically, if you're not willing to put in the work to get this done, then why would you deserve to eat from the same stuff that we're pulling from? And like, if you have the ability to work and you're not working, he's saying, and I truly believe that's what he's talking about, because there obviously, if there's some sort of physical ailment or something like that and you can't work, that's different. That's needy. That's impoverished. That's the sort of thing that when Jesus is talking about taking care of those who are less fortunate, I believe that's what he meant in regards to like this particular verse. So I believe he's mentioning this for people who have the ability to work but are not. Then why you're making everyone else work for whatever you're working for, and then the fruits of their labor should go to you when you have every ability to work, every ability to get some profit from your labor. But if, like it says in that proverb, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And maybe it's, hunger as a type of poverty in this one. But if you're not willing to work, then you shouldn't eat either. That's what Paul is telling them in this passage. And it's strong. It's scary to think that there are so many people out there who are able to work and aren't working, and maybe are. And I don't want to pigeonhole all those everyone into that, but there are people who are looking for work who aren't working. I believe that is working towards something. You are putting in the time, you're putting in the effort to find work. But the ones who aren't doing anything to find work and then complain about not having enough, that's on you, and it's not on anyone else. Because there's profit in everything, whether it is the ability to feel like you had a hard day's work and you get that satisfaction of putting in that time and effort. And then when it comes to it, when it's payday and you're able to use that for food or bills or savings or to give away to bless others, to be able to do that is it's such a blessing. And I never really understood it until I became an adult, and probably even a little older as an adult. When you're able to give money to people because you can part with it and bless others with the gifts and the money that God has blessed you with, it's an amazing thing. That's just a small little tangent, but if I'm not willing to work, then I'm not going to get anything from it. I mean, you could replace eat with get paid. For if anyone is not willing to work, then he is not going to get paid either. If you're not willing to put it forth, then you don't deserve to be paid. That's how I take this passage. It might sound harsh, but it's right there. It's God's word, not mine. Maybe that little get paid part is, but if what he said, then he is not to eat either. That's God's word, not mine. I'm just relaying the message. But you still might, even if you're still thinking, man, what does this have to do with getting in the game? Well, our anchor verse, Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, do your work heartily, as for the Lord rather than for men. When you are, and I have trouble with this, but when you are fully focused on serving God with your work and your time and your finances and everything, when you're focused on that, not only is it easier and more peaceful, but you're willing to put more effort into it. It sounds weird, but you're able to put more in than you even think you have. You have to be willing to actually do it for God, knowing that He's going to fulfill the promises He has for you when you put Him first. Your job's not always going to be what you want it. It's not always going to be as likable as you want it. Even your dream job, you're not going to like every moment of it. And anyone who says they love every moment of their job, I would say they're lying. My opinion, take it for what it is. But no one loves working every single part of their job. But the payoff or the satisfaction of getting something done is worth the small little times of those hard times where you don't like it so much. There is a saying in sports. I don't know who said it, and I'm probably even going to slightly misquote it, but it's kind of like talent is great, but if you basically, so I'm just going to give a rundown. Basically, between hard work and talent, hard work will always outperform talent when talent isn't willing to work hard. So you could have someone who has the hardest work ethic and a lower talent level up against someone who has a higher talent level and a poor work ethic. And over time, by the end of it, when it's all said and done, the person who is willing to put in the work will outperform the one who is not willing to put in the work. And I can tell you from my experience as a coach, especially in high school volleyball, that is so true. The people who are willing to put the work in will find time to be on the court. They might not always be starters, but I tell you what, the amount of time they get on the court, they will be more grateful for that than the starter who plays all the time, who is just, putting in just enough effort to keep their spot. And the reason I say that is because that's the kind of player I was. I'm a 5'10", man now, but I was a 5'10" player in high school. Was not as plump as I am now. Way better shape. Could jump really well. But I played a position where people were 6'5" and 6'4" in front of me, who also could jump well, who put in work. But I was also put in work on the defensive side. And so when those people got the start, I was better than them playing defense in the back row than they were in the back row. So when they needed a sub, I was the person that went in for them. I had a spot, and that was the time I got to play, and I was grateful for that. And then when we were playing teams where they could allow me to play, in the front row, then I got that chance to do that, and I relished in it, and I loved it, knowing that I have a job to do in a spot where I don't normally play during the games. I trained with it trained at that front row position every single day, but I also trained at the back row position every single day. So I was always ready to step in and play in the front row if needed to be, but my role was in the back. And because I worked hard, because I didn't have all the talent that some of these other people had, and the natural ability of just being tall, or natural, I guess not an ability to be tall, but the natural height of them, I didn't have that. So I had to work even harder to be able to get time on the court. And that's why I say the people who don't work hard and get on the court a lot will start to take it for granted. And the people who work hard to just get some time will always be grateful for it. And I've seen it in my own way, my experience, and as a coach, I've seen it as well. On both sides. Hardworking and not hardworking. But I don't want to make all this about work. I also want to say that even God himself took rest. We need to take rest to be able to back off a little bit, take some time, recoup, so that way when we're ready to get back to work, we can put everything back into it. So Genesis 2:3, it says, "Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work, which God had created and made." So even God took time on the seventh. And so it doesn't always have to be the seventh day, but it does need to be a day where you're focused on resting, you're focused on worshiping, taking your time to be with God. And we should do that every single day. But this is really a day that's set aside to be restful, to be void of stress, and really just focused on who God is and what he's done for your life. Because I'm telling you, working hard is important, but so is rest. Even in the Old Testament, they had times that even ground certain like fields. The seventh year, they would take a year off in certain times for the ground to restore its nutrients and stuff like that. So then when they planted that next year, they'd have an abundant crop, and it'd all be worth it. So in that same way, we need to take that time on whatever day is our Sabbath or our day of rest. Because I know it does change for people, because even pastors and priests who work on Sunday or Saturday, depending on your denomination or the way you worship, need a day that's not the Sabbath, because they're working on that day, so they need a day of rest to be able to recoup and get their mind right and restore it, so that way they can put their all in when it's time to work again. But we have to be able to humble ourselves enough to say, I need some time to focus on God, to rest, let my body, let my mind, let my soul just be at ease for a day so I can get back into it. So with that, I'm going to challenge you to whatever you're doing, go at it as hard as you can. I can't tell you the last time that I had a day like I did when I was a player in high school in terms of working. And that's sad, and I'm ashamed to say that, but what I mean by that is I can't remember a time where I worked so hard that all I wanted to do when I got home was rest. That it took everything out of me. Because I used to work so hard because I wanted that. I wanted the profit of being on the court, helping my team win, helping us fight towards a championship, which we never won when I was a player. But having that kind of mentality that I'm going to give everything I have because there's something greater than me at stake, and that's the team. And so even when I've told you to do this before, it's hard to actually say, am I giving all that I can in the work? Am I doing the work that is going to make a profit in my life? And whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be monetary profit. Because I'll tell you right now, the effort, if I gave half the effort than as the people I saw in Cancun at the resort giving in their respective jobs, if I gave half the effort, I would be so successful in this country at whatever I did. Any field. And so I'm challenging myself to step it up and to do that work. And I challenge you to whatever it is, if you need to give more effort, then give more effort because it is worth it. Because you should do it for your family. You should do it for yourself. And most importantly, you should be doing it for God. You should be doing it for the Lord. Because we love him and we're grateful for what he did for our lives, so we can work and do what we need to do to glorify him. So that's what I got for you this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will be back next week with another episode. Thanks again. And like I say, as always, let's get off the sidelines, stop making excuses, and get in the game. We'll see you next week.
Get in the game.
Thank you for listening to the Get in the Game podcast. Please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to support us. Find us on YouTube and subscribe for more content. If you would like for us to pray for you, or if you have topics that you would like us to tackle in upcoming episodes, email us at getinthegamepodcast@gmail.com. That's getinthegamepodcast@gmail.com. Or hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at getinthegamepc. If you've experienced getting off the sidelines and getting into the game yourself, please let us know. And remember, it's time to get in the game.